name is Haukaas Lopez, and my Lakota name is Wambli, Kiyan. My father is Sichangu Lakota, and my mother is Mestiza, and I was born in Colombia, but grew up on Otna Athabascan lands. I'm the Deputy Director of the ACLU of Alaska, but I come here today to speak to you as a community member, a relative from further south on Turtle Island, who has been embraced, taken in, and blessed by this land. I will first thank the aunties, the Alaska Native elders, who, in their wisdom, have gathered us here today to ask the question, what do we now do? When we stare fascism in the face, what do we now do? When we wake to a fresh wave of chaos, when the most vulnerable in our communities are targeted, othered, alone, what do we now do? And the heartbreaking part is that we have been here before. Many of us represent communities who have known this onslaught, this outrage before. Many of us are the children, the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren of the ones who survived. Yes, the heartbreak is that we have been here before, and here we are again. But that heartbreak is beauty too, because we can look at one another across this space, across this community, and say, we've been here before, and that blood humming in our veins, that ancestral thrumming in our bones, knows what to do. We have been here before, and the wisdom that carved us then will carry us now. The ACLU of Alaska walked into this season prepared, determined, and unflinching. And we continue, though some days a little tired, a little storm-tossed, we continue, prepared, determined, and unflinching. Along with continuing to fight in the courts for the rights of the incarcerated, the unhoused, and the disenfranchised voters, we have held numerous Know Your Rights trainings to immigrant community members in 4 different languages, with more to come. We have held Know Your Responsibility trainings for hospitals and schools and religious and organizational leaders across this state. We have held Know Your Power trainings for members of the LGBTQ2S+ communities, their allies, and their families. We are forming and leading legal and service coalitions, knowing that together we are stronger, wiser, more resilient. In times of chaos, we are responding with clarity, believing that the answers are within the communities we serve, and that our role is in equipping people to protect themselves. And while the current administration has targeted organizations like ours for educating people on their rights, and while we will never tell you to disregard the law, we will also tell you, do not obey in advance. Chaos, like we are seeing, can often make people believe something is now the law of the land, even when it's only tweeted on X or shared on Truth Social. Do not obey in advance, and put pressure on state institutions that do, like the University of Alaska striking DEI initiatives. Like our governor once again attempting to curb our right to protest. The university does not need to obey in advance. The governor does not need to obey in advance, and neither do we. So what else can we do? Practically, as Anna shared, you can donate to organizations like the ACLU, like Alaska Institute for Justice, like others who are on the front lines. Your giving means that we can stay in this fight for the long haul. 2, you can get loud. I know it may sound tired and outdated, but your representatives at the national, state, and local levels need to hear your voices now more than ever. Last week when the governor attempted to curb our rights of protest. There was no public testimony option in that. But we were able to rally the community, and by the time that hearing happened, the committee brought in 300 printed emails, a stack this high to that hearing, of you all who wrote and said, we do not want this in our state. And by the end of that day, there were 500 of those emails. Yeah. Your voice matters. Your voice changes things. So call, write, show up, protest, do anything, everything, but do not shut up. 3, you can volunteer. As funding for services across our city and state become increasingly tight, volunteering with agencies that serve the most vulnerable will help ensure that our community members do not slip through the widening cracks as service infrastructures are under attack. And 4, finally, you can create community, like you are doing today. And not just with those who think like you, act like you, vote like you, but also those that we share little in common with. To illustrate this, I'll leave us where we started, with the wisdom of an Alaska Native elder. Years ago, I was at a conference in DC and was on a panel with an Alaska Native elder. And we were discussing the impacts of historical and intergenerational trauma. And after that panel, I asked that elder, how, when the sins of the past are so great, how is a path forward even possible? And she told me, and I will never forget these words, she told me, in order to mend the sacred circle, everyone must be a part of it, even those who broke it. That's hard. And her words hit me in my gut and have remained with me to this day. I think about her words when I get up in the morning to return to this fight. I think about her words when my anger simmers and when I begin to dehumanize my neighbors I disagree with. I remember her words in the insanity, and they ground me in an ancestral wisdom and to an ancient well. My neighbors who might have voted against my best interest and their own are not my enemy. So while we will never give into or minimize an ideology that oppresses, we must also not mimic the sin of the oppressor. And instead, we must move forward, sometimes stumbling, sometimes grasping, in ways great and small, forward to that sacred circle, to that beloved community. Thank you.